Video is to allow you to correct the homework from section 9.2.3, which is problems 960 through 969. 960, calculate the sales prices of each of the following discounted items. A shirt originally priced at $30 has been discounted 20%. So there's a number of ways you could approach this, but one way you could do it is to figure out what 20% of $30 is, and then subtract that from 30. In other words, figure out the amount of the discount and take that away from the original price. So we know 20% can be changed to the decimal 0.20 or 0.2. Of means multiply by 30. We would do this first for order of operations and subtract it from 30. So the original price minus the discount would give us the discounted price of $24. Same concept with B. A sofa originally priced at $1,500 has been discounted 30%. So again, we're looking at 30% of 1,500. 30% as a decimal can be written as 0.30 or 0.3. You're going to find the amount of discount, subtract from the original price to get the discounted price. And then the only thing that's different with C is when you take 10% of $3.49, you end up getting 0.349, which you will need to round since we don't want three decimal places in a money situation. So you'd round this to the nearest cent, and then that discount again gets subtracted from the original price to give you the discounted price. For 961, they want the volume and surface area of a box that has these dimensions. So volume we know is length times width times height. So 5 1/2 times 4 1/3 times 1 1/4. Make sure you're showing what you're putting into the calculator. So you can do this with a calculator, but show what you put into the calculator. And of course, the right label as well. So you get 29 and 19/24 cubic centimeters, or centimeters cubed. And for surface area, you should write down your formula, which would be 2 times length times width plus 2 times width times height plus 2 times length times height. So 2 times 5 1/2 times 4 1/3 plus 2 times 4 1/3 times 1 1/4 plus 2 times 1 1/4 times 5 1/2. And again, that's basically just adding, the top and bottom, the two sides, and the front and back. And when you add them all together in a box, you're getting the total surface area, which is 72 1/4 square centimeters. If you made this a decimal, that's fine too. Tina's rectangular living room floor measures 15 feet by 18 feet. How many square feet of carpet will she need? So you're going to multiply the dimensions, because we know area of a rectangle is length times width, to give us 270 square feet. And if the carpet that she likes is sold by square yards, how many square yards will she need? So what you can do is change feet to yards for both these dimensions. So 15 feet would be 5 yards divided by 3. 18 feet is 6 yards, again divided by 3. And when you multiply the 5 times 6, you get 30 square yards. You could also take this answer and divide by 9, because you're dividing by 3 for length and dividing by 3 for width. So in other words, you're dividing by 3 and then dividing by 3 again. So again, you get back to this answer. 961, you have to find the missing dimension of the rectangle or square. And of course, we know that area of a rectangle or square is length times width. So if we know the area of this rectangle is 100 square feet, and we know the width is 8 feet, we would divide to find the other dimension of length, 12 1/2 feet. Again, make sure you're writing down what you're doing, not just the answer. Here we know the area of the square. We divide by the one dimension to get the other dimension. Again, show your work, show what you put in the calculator. Area divided by the one dimension will give you the other, and the same thing for these others as well. So again, you can use a calculator, but make sure you're showing what you're putting into the calculator. Scooter rode his skateboard every day after school. He often stops to do tricks. On Monday, he rode for 2 hours and went 3 miles. By the end of the week, he went a total of 11 miles, which took him 9 hours. Did he ride the same time and distance every day after school? So, one way you can tell that he did not is that first day he went 3 miles in 2 hours. So, that would be a ratio of 3 to 2. And by the end of the week, he went 11 miles in 9 hours, which would be a ratio of 11 to 9. And these are not equivalent. You can find that they're not equivalent by changing them. Like you could make the second number 18 in both cases, multiplying by 9 in both dimensions here, multiplying by 2 in both dimensions here. Then you'd get 27 to 18 compared to 22 to 18. They're not the same. You could also, find them in other ways, which kind of relates to what they asked for B, which is faster, his rate on Monday or his average rate for the week. We know the way that you find a rate, a unit rate specifically, is to take miles divided by hours. So 3 miles divided by 2 hours means Monday he went 1.5 miles per hour. And then on his average for the week, it'd be 11 miles divided by 9. So 1.2 repeating miles per hour. So 1.5 miles per hour is greater than 1.2 miles per hour. So he rode faster on Monday. For these, make sure you show your steps. Right now, x is being multiplied by 3, so we would divide both sides by 3, which will give us x is greater than 4 2/3. When you put that on a number line, you're going to find 4 2/3, and your arrow is going to go to the right because we're talking about values that are greater. Since we don't have an equal sign here, it's not going to be a closed circle. If we did have an equal sign there, it would be a closed circle. This means we're not including the value of 4 2/3. So again, show some work there. So in this case, y is being multiplied by 8. Our inverse operation is to divide by 8 on both sides, which gives you y equals 8 900ths. Graphing it on a number line, we find 8 900ths. And it's just a single value that's not greater than, it's not less than, it's just equal. So it's just a single dot at that point. And here, w is being multiplied by 6. So we would divide both sides by 6. We get w is less than or equal to 8 103 thousandths. So we have a closed circle at that point, because again, we have that equal sign, and then arrow to the left. 966, Wendy and Peter each made up a new Guess My Decimal game. We have to use their clues to find the number. So Wendy gives you this clue. My decimal is 7/10 greater than 46%. What's my decimal? Well, 46% would be the decimal 46 hundredths. And greater than means we're adding it to that value. So we're taking 46 hundredths, we're adding 7/10. So we get 1 16 hundredths for the decimal. Or if they'd asked for the percent, we could change it to that as well. B, Peter continues the game with this clue. My decimal is 6 hundredths less than 5/10. So we've got 5/10 as a decimal. We want to have 6 hundredths less than that. So we're going to take away 6 hundredths from that to get 44 hundredths. So change them both to decimals, and then 6 hundredths less than 5/10 gives you 44 hundredths. For 967, you're going to use your distributive property and or combine your like terms to simplify. So again, we should see some work, like 9y plus y would be 10y, and 3 minus 2 is 1, plus 5 is 6. So you get 10y plus 6. For the second one, 4x squared doesn't combine with anything because there's no other terms that are alike to 4x squared. We have a negative 3x and a negative 2x, so that gives us a negative 5x. And we have a plus 7 and a minus 5, which gives us plus 2. For the bottom two, you need to make sure you do your distributive property first. So 2 times 3x would be 6x, then minus 2 times 2 is 4, and then add 4x to that, subtract 1 from that. So again, make sure you're showing that step that's in between this and this. Same thing here. 3 times 2y is 6y. down your minus sign. 3 times 9 is 27. Again, write down what you get at that step, and then combine any like terms to get you this final answer. 968, 65% of the 8th grade class is selling magazines for a class fundraiser. If 112 students are selling magazines, how many are in the 8th grade class? So there's a couple ways you could do that. One is you could set it up as a proportion. 65 over 100 would be 65%, and that is equal to 112 out of the total. So with cross products, you're multiplying diagonally this way, multiplying diagonally this way, and solving. The other way you could do it is to say to yourself, 65% of the students in the 8th grade class is the same as 112 students. Well, 65% of the students in the class would be 0.65. Of means multiply, and we don't know how many students are in the class. So X is referring to the number of students in the class, and 65% of that amount is the same as 112 students. So again, we should see the work that you're dividing both sides by 65 hundredths. Final answer in both cases is 172 students. So you could use this method or this method, but make sure you show some additional work for either of them. For 969, you're going to draw any quadrilateral. You are going to have to label the dimensions, so you may want to do it on graph paper. And then you're going to enlarge or reduce it according to these directions. So first, you're going to enlarge it by a ratio of 7 halves. So they want you to write down the lengths of the original, and then when you multiply the length and the width by 7 halves, or 3.5, what are the dimensions of the new quadrilateral? Then go back to that original again. This time, multiply by a ratio of 4/5. That would be the same as the decimal 0.8. And what are the lengths of, again, the new quadrilateral's dimensions? So you'll have your original, you'll have your enlargement, you'll have your reduction, and make sure you have the numbers for the dimensions of all three of those. So all they're going to say is answers will vary, but that's because I need to look at what you've done.